If you're scraping a website, you shouldn't make these big mistakes. Some of these mistakes I used to make myself as a beginner, while I discovered the rest in the hundreds of questions that students of my web scraping course asked. So let's start with this list. Alright, the first mistake we make is scraping the HTML document of a site without checking if the site has a hidden API that we could scrape. If you scrape an API, you won't have to add actions to your scraper, such as clicking on buttons, scrolling, and more. Here's an example. Right now, I'm on the website quotes.toscrape.com, and here, if you check this website and you scroll down, you'll see there is a next page button that you have to click to load more quotes. And also, there is a version of this website with infinite scrolling. That means that you have to scroll down multiple times to load more data. Now, if you start building a web scraper right away without further analysis, probably you'll think that using Selenium will be the best idea to scrape this website, because with Selenium you can click on a button to go to the next page, and also you can do some workarounds to get infinite scrolling. That's not a bad idea, but you can avoid the hassle of building a scraper with Selenium from scratch by checking if there is an API available on the website. Scraping an API is way easier than clicking on buttons with Selenium or doing infinite scrolling, and I'll show you how to do it in a few steps. Alright, the first thing we have to do is right click on the website and then select on Inspect. After we do this, we're going to see Developer Tools, and here instead of choosing the Elements tab, we have to go to the Networks tab. And then we have to select XHR, and we have to reload the website. And after we do this, we're going to see some new elements in the tab. For example, here I have quotes and then the question mark. And if you hover on this new element, you're going to see that the word API is in the link. And that's an easy way to recognize it. Of course, most websites are not going to make obvious where the API is located. And a good way to recognize an element if it has the data that you want to extract is by clicking on it. So here I'm going to click on this element, and to see if this element is the API and has the data that we want to extract, we have to go to Preview. In the Preview tab, you're going to see the elements in a JSON format, and you can expand some elements to verify if the elements contain the data that you want to extract. For example, here, if I expand the quotes element, there's different numbers from 0 to 9, and you can expand one of these numbers to see what's in there. And here I expand the first element, and there is an element author and also tags. And if you check on the left, you can see that, for example, the first author is Albert Einstein, and the tag, for example, is change, deep thought, and is the same as on the left. So we can verify that it's the same data, and if we scrape this element, we're going to get all the data in the website. And avoid the hassle to build a scraper with Selenium that clicks on buttons or that does infinite scrolling. Now that we recognize that this is the element that has the API, we have to copy its link and then use any web scraping library to get the data from this API. Okay, the next mistake we should avoid is sending too many requests in a short period of time. Usually when we scrape websites using Selenium or Beautiful Soup, a common step is adding a for loop, either to scrape multiple websites or to scrape multiple pages or multiple links. Now, websites hate these for loops because when we use these for loops, we send too many requests within seconds. Say we want to send requests to a list of links using a for loop. Most of us will do something like this. We'll create a for loop and we'll use this request.get. Now, if there are thousands of links, you'll send thousands of requests that can cause high traffic on the website and could burden them. In the worst scenario, you could shut down their server. This is a bad practice because you're gonna get blocked by this website. And an easy way to stay safe here is to reduce the number of requests by adding some delays. And a simple way to add delays in Python is importing the time library. So you import time, and then here in this for loop, for example, we type time.sleep, and then we specify the number of seconds in the delay. And with these delays, we're going to avoid sending multiple requests in a short period of time. I set this as 1 second, but you can set this as 2, 3, 5 seconds. It depends on you, on your project, and also on the website that you're scraping. Now, the time library offers the easiest way to add delays, but there are other ways to add delays. For example, you can also add explicit waits using Selenium. And here I'm showing you an example. You have to import expected conditions from Selenium, and explicit waits works in a different way from implicit waits because here the driver is going to wait some seconds until an action happens. For example, here the driver is going to wait at most 5 seconds until the presence of an element is located. If the element is located in 3 seconds, then the driver is only going to wait 3 seconds, which is different from the time library because here when we do time.sleep, we're gonna wait 2 seconds no matter what happens. And when I show you how to add delays in Beautiful Soup using the time library and in Selenium using either the time library or explicit waits, and in case you're using Scrapy, you can add delays by using custom settings and you can just add the parameter download delay, and then here you can specify the delay that you want to add to your scraper. So the next time you're scraping a website, don't forget to add delays. Alright, the next tip I want to give you as somebody who has been scraping websites for many years is to expect the unexpected. Remember that websites change throughout time, and in the future new features can be added to a website that you're scraping. So your scraper might be working right now, but in some weeks or some months or years, that same script is not going to work. These updates to websites is what makes web scraping a bit more complex. So we have to make sure that our web scraper can handle any new roadblock. So after building your web scraper, I want you to ask yourself this question. What if? What if I get IP blocked? What if new features are added to the page? What if there is a CAPTCHA? What if the HTML of the website changes? The answer to some of these questions will be as simple as updating the XPath that you're using to locate an element in a website. But in some other cases, it will be complex to deal with some of these roadblocks, like dealing with CAPTCHAs or with IP blocks. And the tool I recommend you to overcome these challenges is BrightData, which is the sponsor of this video. BrightData offers different scraping solutions to unlock and scrape even the toughest websites. One of them is the Web Unlocker, which you can use to access public websites at scale, employing features like browser fingerprinting, CAPTCHA solving, IP rotations, and more. But my favorite scraping solution of BrightData is the Scraping Browser, which is good for projects that require browser interactions and can connect to third-party tools like Playwright and Selenium. BrightData's Scraping Browser has features like CAPTCHA solving, which will help you analyze and solve CAPTCHAs that you might find when logging to websites, automatic IP rotation to reduce the risk of IP bans, and JavaScript rendering to extract data from websites that rely on dynamic elements. You can connect the Scraping Browser to Puppeteer, Playwright, or Selenium, and it'll handle all proxy and unlocking operations behind the scenes. Start a free trial today and unlock the internet with BrightData using the link in the description. Thanks to BrightData for sponsoring this video, and now let's go back to the video. Alright, the next mistake we should avoid at any cost is sticking to one scraping tool. I can tell how many times I've seen people struggling to scrape a website with tool A when they could have used tool B to easily get the job done. The problem is that they only know how to use one tool, like for example Selenium, and want to stick to it, even though there are other options out there that will help them scrape the website easily or more efficiently. I made a complete video explaining the pros and cons of some Python libraries for web scraping and even other no-code options like ChatGPT. And I'm going to start with ChatGPT because it's a tool that you can use for web scraping and you don't need to write any code. The easiest way to scrape websites with ChatGPT is by using the GPT scraper. With this GPT, you only need to give the link of a website that you want to scrape, and then you have to specify which data you want to extract. And this GPT is going to extract all this data in just a few seconds. Some of the disadvantages of ChatGPT for web scraping is that it doesn't support dynamic websites. Also, in some websites with pagination, it will not be possible to scrape data from multiple pages. Sometimes it's possible in some scenarios, but in some others it's not possible. Then we have Python libraries for web scraping. And let's start with Selenium. Selenium is a great option to scrape dynamic websites, and it's also a good option because it's easy to learn. And in general, Selenium is a good option for small or medium web scraping projects, where you have to mimic human behavior like clicking on buttons or scrolling down on pages. However, the biggest disadvantage of Selenium is that it's slow, so it's not a good option for large web scraping projects. Then we have Scrapy, which is good for medium to large web scraping projects. One of the biggest advantages of Scrapy is speed. Scrapy spiders don't have to wait to make requests one at a time, but it can make requests in parallel. And some of the drawbacks of Scrapy is that it doesn't handle JavaScript by default, but it relies on Splash to do this job, so you have to learn Splash to be able to scrape JavaScript-driven websites. Now this is only a summary. If you want more details about each web scraping library, check out my other YouTube video in the description below. Alright, finally as a bonus, I want to give you a tip that might come in handy when scraping or automating websites that require you to log in. Some sites have strong login systems. For example, OpenAI's CAPTCHAs, WhatsApp Web's QR code verification, or Tinder's two-factor authentication. A simple way I deal with this is by connecting Selenium to an existing browser. Basically, I do the login manually once and then connect my script to that browser so that I don't have to log in again. To do so, we have to run a command on the terminal. This command needs the Chrome executable path, and we also need to create a new profile folder and copy its path. First, to obtain that Chrome executable path, you have to right-click on Chrome and copy the location of the chrome.exe. For Mac users, you go to Applications, right-click on Google Chrome, select Show Package Content, then Content, Mac OS, and then copy the path of a file name, Google Chrome. Now we create a profile folder. To do so, just create an empty folder and copy its path. Now that you have the Chrome executable path and also the profile folder path, open up a terminal, paste the Chrome executable path, followed by a parameter with the port 9222. And another parameter with the path of the profile. And I'll leave these commands in the description below. After running this command, Chrome will be launched on port 9222. Then on your script, you have to connect to the same port using Selenium. For this, you just need to add a few lines of code. First, import options, instantiate options, and then use the add experimental option method to connect Selenium with the session open in port 9222. Finally, don't forget to add the options parameter to the Chrome method and set it equal to the variable options. And that's it. Next time you run the script, you'll connect with the same browser and avoid CAPTCHAs or two-factor authentication. And that's it for this video. These are the mistakes that we should avoid and the tips we should follow when scraping websites. And if you know another mistake or tip we should follow, let me know in the comment section below. That's it for this video, and I'll see you on the next video.